Our next speaker needs no introduction whatsoever. He's an author, broadcaster, and champion of many, many just causes. Please welcome Mr. John Pilger.
You know, today, at the very moment that we're here, the United States, Britain and France are bombing a city in Libya called Sirte. It has 100,000 people. Day and night, residential buildings, clinics, schools have been hit with fragmentation bombs and hellfire bombs, hellfire missiles, which are also called vacuum bombs. That means they suck the air out of your lungs. The media refer to Sirte as a pro-Gaddafi stronghold. The Channel 4 reporter in Libya describes the attacks as cutting off the head of the snake. For such heroic journalists, there are two types of humanity in war. There are worthy victims and unworthy victims. The people of Sirte are unworthy victims, and therefore they're expendable both as people and as news. In Iraq, the people of Fallujah were also unworthy victims. American Marines, helped by the British, killed some 5,000 people there. Last year I used footage of what had happened in Fallujah in a film of mine. It was shocking. It was almost a vision of Hiroshima. Not a frame of this film was broadcast when all this happened 6 years earlier, although it was offered and it was rejected. As Harold Pinter would say, and he often spoke up here, none of it happened. It didn't happen even as it was happening. It didn't matter. Everything was used in Fallujah: cluster bombs, white phosphorus. Cancer is now rampant in that city. In Afghanistan, I filmed a woman called Orifa kneeling beside the graves of her husband and 7 other members of her family, including 6 children. An American F-16 pilot had dropped a 500-pound bomb on her small home, which was made of mud and straw. I walked into the crater and saw pieces of human bone. We've had 10 years of such crimes that didn't happen, that didn't matter. 10 years. The revision is now well underway, and I'm not referring to the Sun or the Daily Mail. Yesterday, The Guardian said that the invasion of Afghanistan was understandable, and to wage a short war was unavoidable. Understandable, unavoidable. No mention that Al-Qaeda had left Afghanistan when the invasion began. No mention that the Clinton administration had been secretly dealing with the Taliban regime for an oil pipeline, even inviting the Taliban on a secret trip to Washington. No mention that the Taliban were lavishly entertained in the Texas mansion of the CEO of the oil company Unocal. No mention that the attack on Afghanistan almost certainly had been planned before 9/11, as Pakistan's Foreign Minister Nayab later revealed. He was told in July of that year that Washington had decided to get rid of the Taliban regime because they were unreliable. Some people who ought to know better swallowed the lies about Afghanistan being unavoidable, understandable. Many in the women's movement in the United States listened to Hillary Clinton lie that an attack on Afghanistan would liberate women. When this excuse wore thin, drugs became the issue. No mention that the Taliban had actually eliminated the opium trade. Today, young people on the streets of British cities are addicted to heroin thanks to British and American deals that allowed their favourite warlords to restore the opium trade. Look, the war in Afghanistan was a fraud right from the beginning, just as the attack on Iraq was a fraud, and the invasion of Libya is a fraud. According to evidence published in France, but not in this country, the so-called National Transitional Council in Libya promised to grant 35% of oil concessions to the French company Total in exchange, and I use the term, they used the term rather, in exchange for France's military involvement. And here's David Cameron boasting that Libya is the model for humanitarian intervention all over the world. Your presence today, you should never ever underestimate this. Your presence today is so important because you and millions like you all over the world represent decency, sanity, outrage. The Camerons, the Blairs, the Straws, the Obamas, the Bushes represent extremism. They are the enemy. For what, let me ask, for what can be more extreme than the slaughter and suffering of so many innocent people? Never lose faith in your own power, but they are not invincible. They fear this power. They and their apologists fear you calling them to account. Above all, they fear you disobeying their atrocious rules and believing their atrocious propaganda. Because from Egypt to Chile, Wall Street to right here in Trafalgar Square, there's only one way now, and you know what that is. It's called civil disobedience. Thank you.
Thank you, John Pilger.